The presentation title is Exploring Program Management Competencies for Various Program Types. I'm Maxim Miterev. First of all, I wanted to thank very much International Project Management Association and Research Management Board and organizers of the conference for inviting me here. Thank you very much. It's much appreciated. So a couple of words about myself. Actually, my background is in hardcore science, in applied mathematics and physics with major in theoretical physics. But then I also did a master in strategic project management in 3 European countries, half a year in each, in Reykjavik University in the UK, Politecnico di Milano in Italy, and IPMA University in Sweden. And now I am a double degree doctorate student in KTH Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm and in Politecnico di Milano. So previously I worked for a very good German management consulting company, Roland Berger, strategy consultants, and that was mainly associated with performance improvement in metallurgy and mining. I also did some independent consulting and worked mainly in strategy departments and PMOs across several industries. So if you would ask me, what should we remember from about this presentation in one line? Then I would say that contrary to the one-size-fits-all assumption in program management competencies literature, different programs actually require different competence sets. So that's let's say, the result in one line of this presentation. It might be well understood by the practitioners, but it's not so in theory. So it is, let's say, we don't really have much empirical support for the influence of the differences in programs on successful approaches to manage them. I would say one distinctive feature of the study was that it employed quite large ethnographic component. I had a desk in the company, so I was able to observe program managers and their sponsors in their everyday communication, which which provides quite a lot of useful information and data which you cannot access if you just run semi-structured interviews or especially questionnaires. So I would say that's something that makes this research different, and that's something that researchers in Sweden enjoy, very good access to companies. The results of the study has been published in the International Journal of Project Management in the this year, I think in April. And overall, in addition to this one line that I let's say highlight as the main result of the study, the research also highlights the importance of program content as an important contingency variable for understanding program management dynamics, and it also developed a ready-to-use and very simple model to apply in practical world. So if we get into a background of the study, program managers' competencies are usually discussed in comparison with competencies of project managers, and that's the major focus in the literature. So on the differences, how program managers require more contextual awareness, more strategic viewpoints. At the same time, programs in this discussion are treated as homogeneous category. Researchers just refer to a program without discussing potential differences among programs. At the same time, there is another literature stream which is talking about program diversities. So for instance, we have many studies on typologies of different programs. Gray, Ferns, and many others. Pellegrinelli, Vereike, and the colleagues. And we also have an emergent contingency stream of program management, where researchers try to understand how differences in programs actually influence chances for success and the competences that should be employed. Not competences, but more like structures, and how context can influence program management dynamics. And there have been calls from researchers to elaborate on contingency perspective in program management. And against this backdrop, this study starts. It actually tries to move a little bit our understanding of contingency approach to program management. So 3 main areas are addressed here. It's program management, competencies, and contingency perspective. When we're talking about program management, overlap between program management and competencies, we're talking about program management competencies literature. And program management and contingency perspective, that's the program typologies literature. And this study addresses exactly the overlap of these 3 fields. So how was it done? So for the empirical data, that was an in-depth case study of 10 programs run in one major pharmaceutical company. They represented a very diverse set of programs. So they were different in terms of geography, and that's one of the big differences with other studies on program management, where, for instance, Vereke and colleagues, all their programs were set in Belgium, and all programs in Partington and colleagues' study were set in the UK. Here we have a much broader geographical representation. And the content of the programs were also quite diverse. There were huge supply chain reconfiguration projects when different plants were moved from one location to another. And there were market entry programs and major mergers and acquisitions with other pharmaceutical companies. So they were quite different also in terms of scale and complexity. And I think this big variation allowed me to explore how differences might affect program management competence that are required for successful program management. So I used a wide range of empirical data collection methods, both semi-structured interviews at sponsor level, program level, and project level. Also participant observation, as I said, participation to the meetings, and a lot of informal communication. And actually, some of the insights you can get when you just have a chat next to a coffee machine might be very informing. So I would say this methodological twist based on ethnography provided some important insights into actual reality of program management. So, and the data analysis, now it looks straightforward, but it was a very messy process. And actually, that was a purely, well, I cannot really say it was purely inductive research. It was more like an abductive research. So where theory and practice interacted along the analysis. But it started as an inductive study. I was interested in just in the complexities and challenges of program management. And then when I compared it with the existing literature on the topic, I realized that one of the aspects which is clearly doesn't fit what I observe in practice is these differences against the homogeneity assumption in the literature. For a short synthesis of the result, I called it a 3C model, not in the paper, but everywhere else. It's a 3C model because of the competence profiles names, coordinator, commander, and convincer. And so the program types are based on the as I showed on the previous slide. I classified the programs into the Pellegrinelli types, and for them explored what were, for the failed programs, why they failed and how, for instance, these problems could have been avoided, and for successful, why they claim it was done right, and it was quite an open-ended inquiry. So for portfolio type programs, which means that the reason for program existence is that it exploits a common theme or a common resource and try to extract some benefit from coordination. At the same time, project managers maintain strong relationships with their project sponsors. So program manager doesn't really have direct authority over project managers for this type. And then it was more about decision-making support and informal coordination. And we called it this profile coordinator. For a goal-oriented program, it was more, the focus more was on getting things done. It was more like a scaled-up version of project management. And then it was technical expertise, all aspects, technical aspects, team formation, team building, planning and control, directing. So that was more like a commander profile. And for the heartbeat program, which Pellegrinelli defines as a program where you renew existing, for instance, infrastructures and systems, or it might be related to organizational change, then it was more like a political role, almost like being an ambassador for your program, trying to reconcile different views and to promote the cause of the program. It was then about courage to challenge sponsors, political skills, scenario planning, contextual awareness, and networking. And we called it Convincer. And actually here I wanted to refer back to the presentations that were done today. So for instance, Helge said when talking about sustainability in project, program, and portfolios, he was talking about anticipatory competencies, system thinking, strategic competencies, behavioral ones. And to me, that resembles more heartbeat programs. And indeed, it seems that when we take sustainability issues into account, it becomes more a heartbeat program, because you are changing existing systems where many stakeholders might have different views on the problem or don't recognize problem at all. So in this case, I can see some parallels. Of course, it's quite different, because sustainability at the level of society or at the level of profession is kind of posits quite different challenges. But there are parallels. And we can see that the respective profile here is Convincer. And here I come back to Tom Taylor, who said that influencing political level and making the cause of sustainability is very important. And I would say that for this type of endeavor, convincing is the most kind of summarizes what should be done. So that was just a small, let's say, reflection on the presentations today. So now let's put it in broader context. If we take these results, what can be done next? What we don't know about program management in relation to these results. So one thing is understanding the role of specific program characteristics, because when we use Pellegrinelli typology, we restrict ourselves to very few types. And I did it in order to to make the point in the clear way, but I don't argue that this typology is the best, or it can describe the complexity of program management in the real world. So I would say that understanding the role of specific characteristics or differences, dimensions that can help us to differentiate between different types of programs and their influence on competence areas. That could be a very interesting line of inquiry. Another implication is that maybe we should, originally program management was pretty much literature, theoretical literature on program management, was pretty much focused on linking programs to their environment and how programs in context operate. But I think there is also a big opportunity to go beyond this black box of program management. What's actually inside programs? How inter-project dynamics affect processes? What are the social mechanisms there? That could be quite interesting. And then following from these first 2 points, then how exactly do content and context shape internal operations of program management? Another way to broaden up the discussion of program management is to include front-end activities, because it can be possible that the success or failure of the program is already more or less predetermined even before the program has started. And also what happens after the program. I would say that for program management, the benefits management even more important than for project management. But I would say that this discussion is still very nascent in the literature. It's not really well developed. So just to conclude, this study challenges the implicit one-size-fits-all assumption of the program management competence literature. It contributes to the contingency stream of program management by highlighting the importance of internal factors of the content of the program in addition to the context which has been recognized before. It enriches methodological foundation of the literature by introducing this ethnography twist. And it puts forward a simple and ready-to-use model that can be potentially used for appointment decisions and staff assessments. Finally, it highlights some opportunities for the future research. Thank you very much. Let's connect on LinkedIn as Google Scholar and ResearchGate, and let's keep in touch. Thank you very much for your attention.